Good morning, students. Welcome to our today's online session. Hope all are fine and safe. In the previous class, we were discussing the chapter The Adventure, and we discussed two main characters, Professor Genton and Rajendra Prasad. So Genton was traveling to Pune. He had an accident. He fell into coma, and his mind started to travel in a parallel world where he experienced a completely different history. This is what we discussed in our previous class. Now let us see the rest of the chapter. The chapter, it's when you are reading the text, you will find that it's shifting from one paradigm to the other, past and present. So listen carefully when you are listening to the session. Now we can discuss the rest of the chapter. So in the previous day we discussed till our Professor Genton is admitted in the hospital and he regains his consciousness. And from Rajendra he comes to know that he was in a coma stage for last 2 days. Then what happens? Professor Genton explains what all things he experienced in the last 2 days in a parallel world where the whole history is different from what they have already learned. So now you might be wondering, what is the problem here? How Professor Genton reached in his coma stage? In actual, it was not the incident that happened in Azad Maidan, but it was an accident. Professor Genton was traveling to Azad Maidan to give a speech where he was supposed to be presiding the function. So now you might remember that we discussed in the previous session, there was no one in the presiding chair. So Professor Genton was supposed to preside in that function, but he couldn't reach there. Before that, his car collided with some other vehicle and he had an accident. He was taken to the hospital. So when he had this accident, he was thinking about this catastrophic theory. In this chapter, you will come across two theories, catastrophic theory and lack of determinism in quantum theory. So let us see what are these theories. Catastrophic theory means if there is any difference in a situation, circumstance, there will be a shift in the situation. If there is any difference happens in the circumstance, there will be a shift in the situation, is catastrophic theory. So when Professor Genton was traveling in the car to the Azad Maidan, he was preparing some notes about the history of the Battle of Panipat, third Battle of Panipat, which happened between Afghans and Marathas. In actual, in the war, Afghans defeated Marathas. Vishwas Rao was the leader of Marathas and he was shot to death. And Marathas lost the war. Afghan enslaved the whole country. This is real history. But what we read in the previous class was entirely different, where Vishwas Rao narrowly missed the bullet and Marathas won the war. This is the history that he experienced, Professor Genton experienced in his parallel world. And this was the catastrophic theory he was thinking about. If there was such a shift, what might have happened? How the whole history might have changed. That time this accident happened and there was some shift of neurons in his brain when he went into coma. And that shift is explained by Rajendra as lack of determinism in quantum theory. And what is this quantum theory? Lack of determinism in quantum theory. You might have studied in science that electrons are revolving around this neutron, and electrons will jump from one state of energy to another state of energy. And here also Rajendra Prasad is trying to explain the same theory, explain this situation using the same theory, like neurons in his brain shifted from one state to another stage when it got shot by some energy at the time of collision. So the parallel world that he was experiencing, it's not a time travel, it's just a shift of neurons in his brain from the paradigm, one paradigm to the other, like from past to present. No, it's just his imaginations. Whatever thing he was imagining at the time of collision, he experienced all those things at the stage of coma. So he was thinking, just before the collision, he was thinking that if there was such a change, if Vishwas Rao was not hit by the bullet, the whole history might have changed. That is catastrophic theory. And the same process went on in his brain even after the accident, and he experienced all those things. Afghans won the Marathas won the battle, and after that what all things he would be able to see in the history. So you might remember that book we were talking about, which he accidentally kept in his pocket. So that book, it was just his imagination. It was that piece of paper where he prepared a speech for Azad Maidan. So these are the two theories explained in the chapter, catastrophic theory and lack of determinism in quantum theory, with the help of which Rajendra Prasad is trying to explain Professor Gainton what he experienced in his coma stage. In real history, Marathas lost the war, and the rest of the history just like they learned. But at the time of accident, he was thinking about this catastrophic theory, and the history changes. Marathas won the battle, and the rest is what we read in the first part of the chapter. So now I believe you got what the chapter is about. It is just explanation of two theories with the help of Professor Gainton's experiences. So now read the chapter thoroughly till you understand the whole chapter. Till we meet in our next session, take care. Bye bye.